Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Cheap seats over. There's no bad seats right now. Can you pass one of these to you? Can you figure out the connection?
There it is.
Stay. No. It's good. Is it on? Okay. Now give these over. Ready?
Are these the extra?
Extra, yeah. Om. Jai Ma. Can you see that?
Yeah.
The green of the both lights. I think we have another one. Maybe I'll switch them out. The one that I use for on the computer. Swamiji needs a song sheet. Om Mangalam Gurudevaya Devya Matriksha Mangalam Mangalam Bhakta Brindevya Sarvalokaya Mangalam Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Sarupini Avatar Varishta Ramakrishna Yate Namaha Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagatgurum Parapadmetayo Stritva Pranamami Muhur Muhur Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deva Maheshwara Guru Deva Param Brahman Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Sarashiva Samarambam Shankaracharam Ajamamashvarachara Prayantam Vande Gurum Paramparam Om Bhadra Kali Namo Nityam Saraswati Namo Namaha Vera Viranga Vedanta Vijjastana Evacha Sri Ganesha Sharada Guru Bhyo Namaha Hari Om. So continuing our discussions on the Kali Sahasranāma, the 1,000 names of Goddess Kali. So last week we were actually I keep reprinting the same one, so the same mistake is there. We're actually on verse 36. It was 35 and 36. It says 52 and 36. That's a mistake, but I think it is 35. So last couple of weeks we did the previous words. Brantirvavani rudrani mriddani shatru-mardini upendrani mahendrani joshna chandra sarupini. And then last week we did the first half of verse 36. Sūryātmikā rudra-patnī raudrī strī prakṛiḥ śaktiḥ sūktir-matir-mātā bhuktir-muktiḥ pati-vratā. So for the sake of learning and hearing them and practicing them, we can repeat. We're on verse 36. We'll do it in half verses. You repeat after me. Sūryātmikā rudra-patnī sūktir-matir-mātā raudrī strī prakṛiḥ śaktiḥ sūktir-matir-mātā bhuktir-muktiḥ pati-vratā. Sūryātmikā rudra-patnī raudrī strī prakṛiḥ śaktiḥ sūktir-matir-mātā bhuktir-muktiḥ pati-vratā. Sūryātmikā rudra-patnī raudrī strī prakṛiḥ Śaktiḥ, sūktir-matir-mātā. Bhuktir-muktiḥ, pati-vratā. So last Saturday, we dealt with the first few 4 or 5 names of the first half. Sūryātmikā, who is the essence of the sun, and the last name of the previous verse was Chandra Sarupini, who is the essence of the moon. So we're getting with these kind of dualities, and many of the names, Rudrani, Mirdani, Bhavani, Upendrani, Mahendrani, are the consorts or the Shaktis of Rudra, Vishnu, Indra, like that. So there's a lot of these pairing of male and female, that type of conception. And so here it was Chandra Sarupini, Sūryātmikā, very similar. And then rudra-patnī, the wife of Rudra. This will make sense. The last name in this little cluster is pati-vratā, she who is devoted to her husband. So so she is the wife of Shiva or Rudra, and so it ends with she is devoted to her husband. So these pairs are there, and then we have and raudrī, she herself is raudra, is fierce, right? And then strī, prakṛiḥ, pumān. And so I want to take another glance at these 3 names. I mentioned last week that how you break the names we're not exactly sure how the names should be broken. So generally, the 2 translations that I know, that I have people have translated, they treat strī prakṛiḥ as one name, who is the nature, has a womanly nature. Prakṛiḥ means nature, strī means woman, right? So he has the woman's favorite nature. And then the next line is pumān. Pumān is cognate purusha, is of male. So she who is female, who has a female nature, and she who is male. Right, but if we take those names apart a little differently, strī could be its own name, she who is a woman, and then you have this dual, prakṛiḥ and pumān, prakṛiḥ and purusha, right? And so I think I'm not disagreeing with strī prakṛiḥ as a name, but in poetics you put 2 names together and create a third name. There may be some implied play there, right? Prakṛiḥ and pumān. I think to think about prakṛiḥ and purusha and prakṛiḥ and purusha, I think it's helpful to understand perhaps the rest of the names in this section. Went back to 0 on my notes here. Sūryātmikā. So I think that it may actually be setting up perhaps a way to think of these in the same. I think the names that jump out for me in this section is, if you look at it, says bhukti and bhuktir-muktiḥ, right? So these 2 are often brought together, and so we have to think how to understand bhukti. Bhukti means enjoyment, and mukti means liberation, right? They seem to be opposed to each other, right? And generally that's how they're 2 different things. And so they're clustered together. So I think we can look at purusha prakṛiḥ as a hint to understand perhaps ways to think about mukti and mukti. So we'll start like that. So first name 281, śaktiḥ. So that's okay. We have purusha prakṛiḥ. Now you have śaktiḥ, right? So we have to think. Of course, I think śaktiḥ may come more than once. And I didn't do a word search, but many names are repeated. So I think śaktiḥ may come more than once in the Kali Sahasranāma, right? But you see, it could be śaktiḥ shukti could be one word, could be one name. She who is the pleasant energy of the goddess. I mean, so you don't know how to split it. You don't know how these names split, right? But let's take śaktiḥ, because śaktiḥ is Bhranti. Bhranti is a quality of Shakti. Yadevi sarvabhuteshu Bhranti rupena. Bhavani is the Shakti of Bhava, of Shiva. Rudrani is the Shakti of Rudra, right? Upendrani is the Shakti of Indra. Upendrani is the Shakti of Vishnu. Mahendrani is the Shakti of Indra, right? So you have this idea of Shakti as connected. So we have to think, we have to, it's good to contemplate the importance of Shakti in these names. Of course, this is a Shakta text, right? These are names of Shakti, Parashakti, of the supreme energy. And so this is, and the Shaktism, where the text comes from, the tantric, a form of Shaktism, a tantric form of Shaktism that generates this text, right? And so what is Shakti? So her name is Shakti. Shakti means energy, the simple meaning, energy. It means ability. It means strength. It means effort. It means power. It means capability. All these type of things have the idea of Shakti. And as I think we had one lecture in Berkeley years ago when it was mentioned Shakti, it said, oh, Shakti is a feminine, the ending is feminine. And therefore we think of Shakti as feminine, right? That's a simple thing. It's grammatically feminine, right? I think it's grammatically feminine. But perhaps it's more than just grammatically feminine, right? It's been associated with feminine power, right? But that also power is feminine. That's Shaktism right there. Right, we worship the feminine power. We worship power. That power is feminine. So the Shakti tradition is a worship of Shakti. The Shakti tradition is a worship of the divine feminine, of the goddess. So that's good. Shakta. We like that conception, right? But it also, we have to bring the idea of Shakti and Shaktiman, right? Shakti is energy, the energy or the power, and Shaktiman is the energetic or the powerful. Right, and usually in that gendered language, you end up with Shakti and Shaktiman. Shakti is feminine power, and Shiva, or Bhava, Rudra, Upendra, and Indra, right? These are masculine, and so these are the powerful. So the powerful wields power, right? So you can see that when you have that gendered conception of Shiva and Shakti, or Shakti and Shaktiman and Shakti, it even if you're focusing on Shakti, and Shaktism focuses on Shakti, it still, in a certain sense, makes Shakti secondary, power secondary to the powerful, right? So I would say strong, aggressive Shaktism, right, holds, it's not just between Shiva and Shakti we worship Shakti. Between Radha and Krishna, we focus on Radha. Between Lakshmi and Narayana, we prefer Lakshmi. That's a type of Shakti, devotional Shaktism, right? But I would say a more an aggressive form of Shaktism, right, is that, no, actually, Shakti, without Shakti, there's no Shiva. Without Shakti, without Lakshmi, there's no Narayan, right? And one of our friends says, without Narasinghi, there's no Narasingha. He's a stuffed lion. Right, without Shakti, there's no male deity. The male is a form, a container for the female energy, rather than the source of the female energy. In which case, the goddess Shakti is both Shakti and Shaktiman, right? She's the powerful and she's power, right? And so that's a big important move, right? That's I would say almost like a defining feature of classical Shaktism, right? Energy, ability, strength, effort, power, capability, but she's the energetic, the able, the strong, the expert, the powerful, and the capable, right? She's not just the capability of the capable, something like that, right? So that's the emphasis of giving Shakti. So Shiva and Shakti. Shakti is not just one side of the Shiva-Shakti dynamic. Shiva-Shakti are aspects of Shakti, right? Shiva-Shakti are aspects, the god and goddess are aspects of the goddess, right? So that's the conception, right? That's, I mean, in our Hindu goddess class, I think the first class we talked about this. What's meant by Shakti and what's meant by Shaktism. So another swing at Shakti. Shakti is also that's nice conceptual things of the nature. I'm powerful and I have power, and therefore God is powerful and has power. We can extrapolate into abstracts like that, but also in real life, that the Shakti perspective and a very tantric perspective is that energy is the cosmic energy. That energy that's the force behind everything, that creates everything. Everything exists and that animates everything. So it's the animating force. Right, and in one of our classes, we suggested one podcast on, what was somebody? The animating on the emerald. But there's a second lecture on that. It's called, what was it called? Animism. is normative consciousness, right? And it's very poetic. At the end of every few paragraphs, that's because animism is normative. His point is that animism is 99% of all history of every human being throughout all time. We're animists, right? This right now, the fact that we're not animists, that we're not thinking that everything is living and everything is energetic, everything is alive with force, not just consciousness. It's not that everything is conscious; everything is living with force, right? Animated, and that's been the normative perspective throughout human history, right? Right. We're in a little weird thing. Like we are like, these Backford tribal people that believe trees were alive or something like that, right? Where everyone thought everything was alive, right? And so, what's a very interesting way of looking at Shaktism? Shaktism is a philosophical, theological approach to that, right? But that there is an animating power, Shakti, and she, right? Now we have a name for her. Her name's, and here we have 1,000 names for her. Right, one of her names is Shakti in this list of 1,000 names for her. Right, she is the animate, is the way he puts it. She's the animating power, right? And in Tantra, in most of the time, I have to be careful because Tantra has such a wide variety of schools, but the way we generally mean it in our little corner of the Tantric world, the Shakta Tantric world, that Shakti is also consciousness. It's not just power; it's also consciousness. And that consciousness transforms itself, right, into the universe and its being. So that the consciousness transforms itself into the world and then animates the world. Sri Ramakrishna described in one point, he says that a spider creates a web out of itself and then lives in it. Right, that's a great way of thinking of it. So the Shakti creates a world that's not different from herself, right, and then herself animates it. She herself lives in it. That's one way of thinking like that. It's a beautiful thing. So in general, because like Tantra has so many schools and varieties, Vedanta has so many schools and varieties, and so does Shaktism has many schools and varieties. But if we were to make these uncareful general statements among friends, and we all kind of know what we're talking about. We're not academics pointing out, but in this school they don't think like that. So we can do that too. We're just not in the mood for it today. I need stronger tea to get myself revved up ready for that. I'm ready for it, but give me a few more sips. But we would say, like, so this particular view of Shaktism can be, although sometimes some schools are dualistic in a certain sense of relationship between God and that animating and the source of the animating power, right, of the goddess. But generally, it tends to be a type of non-dualism, right? But it's not. We would sometimes call it Advaita Vedanta to be a harsh non-dualism, right? So this is what some would call it an organic non-dualism. As in that there's one living being, a living organism, right, is one thing. Like, I'm a living organism, I'm a single being. This ecosystem is an organism too, that's one being. So that's which has individuals in it, right? So it's a way of can't say, I don't want to say honor because then we're just like generating of recognizing the fact of individuality and multiplicity while still seeing one being. So it's a type of organic non-dualism, and what is it that's non-dual here? What things are at least organically connected, one plane, many parts, are manifested in different ways, right? It's just maybe even distinct ways. That's Jiv, and usually the technical language is Jiv and Jagat. Jagat is the world, and Jiv is the individual, right? So you have Ishvara. Usually the Trinity is God, Ishvara, or Brahman, and Jiv Jagat, right? So some way to understand that. Right, and in Shaktism, because we use that language of Tantra of Shakti, often there's another type of foundational, different type of duality bipolar manifestation of Shiva and Shakti. So we have to think about that. And in our other class, we've talked about Prakash and Vimarsha and all that. These get more technical. We're simply a word that says Shakti here. But I want to describe a little bit because I think that will help us think about these other names, the other ideas in these names. Right. So one view of Shaktism and tantric schools of Shaktism, right, is that the one has become everything, right? one has become everything also via Shakti, right? So that one of the Shaktis that allows the one to become everything, that motivates the one to become everything, is Swatantriya Shakti. There's a spontaneous independence. The one can become everything. People say, well, why would they become? It's like, well, I don't know why, but obviously she has, because here we are, right? So this idea, she has become everything by her own will and by her own freedom. By Shakti, she's become everything, right? And so by her Shakti, she's feminine. By her Shakti, she's become everything. That Shakti is feminine, and that's important, right? This means that this world is her, right? In some sense, it's Shakti, it's feminine, and it's her, right? And that means that's Jagat, and that means Jiva actually, in a certain sense, understood in a certain perspective, is also feminine. It's also Shakti, feminine, and in certain sense is also her, right? My Guruji, one of his things he used to say, he used to tell, this is secret talk, look around. I go through the same thing. It's not for everybody, right? He says that unseen power, Shakti, is plain as individual soul, right? It's plain as not just our individual souls, every individual soul, right? That's the great secret. That was he called that Vedanta, but it's not classical Vedanta. It was actually, he used the language of Vedanta, but it's I think, more of a tantric perspective, right? So, there's a scholarly definition. We in our seminary class, we talked about the tantric realm, right? The realms of philosophy and certain characteristics of tantra, Shakti Tantra. One academic definition summary is Tantra is a body of beliefs and practices which hold that the universe we experience is nothing other than the concrete manifestation of the divine energy, that divine Shakti, right? Right, the divine energy of the Godhead that creates, maintains the universe, right? So in certain schools of, it's certain schools of like in classical, we can even say Advaita Vedanta, because Advaita Vedanta has many manifestations, but we consider general statements about classical Advaita Vedanta that sees Brahman as essentially real, the only thing that's real, and the material world, Jeev Jagat, is essentially unreal. Brahma, what is it? Brahma Satyam Jagad Mithya. There's something we've drilled in our head so many times. The God alone is real. Brahman is real. The world's unreal. Right? Like this. Right? As foundational. But in the introduction to Shankaracharya's introduction to the Brahma Sutta commentary, he defines his terms. Right? What is meant by Satya and Asatya and Mithya? Satya and Mithya, real and unreal. It's one of the qualities that it should be unchanging, right? So the world is definitely not unchanging, right? By that classification, it can be dismissed, or at least maybe not dismissed. Maybe the danger is dismissing it, but at least understood as unreal. The proper thing as something changing, automatically unreal. If your definition of real is unchanging, then the world is unreal, right? And so by that definition, right, Shaktism generally holds, right, and Shakti forms of Tantra generally hold that the world is real but temporary. It's a real but temporary manifestation of the reality, and is ultimately identical, to use Vedantic language, to Brahman, to use devotional language, to Ishvaro, Ishwari, and to use more tantric language, to Shiva or Sadashiva, or Paramashiva, Bhairava, whatever that conception is, right? So matter itself, while always changing, right, is sacred, because Shakti is Shakti, and therefore is sacred, and in some very real sense is non-different from Brahman or spirit or God, right? So Shakti, the goddess, capital S Shakti, with all her Shaktis, right, is the totality, right? It's the organic whole, the totality, right? Thakur gives a wonderful example. He called, what is it, the bell fruit? The example, is it bell fruit emoji or the jackfruit? Bell fruit. So bell fruit is a bibla fruit. We have the bibla leaves. It's an auspicious fruit of Shiva, right? But in the big bell fruit, a good 60% of the bell fruit is not edible. It's bitter. Like, you have to break it open, right? There's some juice in it. You get some like that, but it's also flesh, right? And so when you go to the store and buy a bell fruit, right, you're really buying the flesh as a part that you're going to eat, right? But they don't just weigh the flesh when you buy it by weight. Like, how many I want so many kilograms, or how much it charge you for a bell fruit. They weigh the whole thing, right? Although you may be only interested in one aspect, you can't just have one aspect. You don't get, the old story of like, I only want the front part of the chicken, the back part of the chicken. The front part eats, and the back part gives me eggs. So I cut the chicken in half and keep the back part, right? You need the full chicken, right? The full spectrum, right? It's a story in Greek Greek mythology. Somebody wanted the front of a goat of a something like that rather than the back, right? But the same idea. So Thakur said, you won't get, if you don't see the whole thing, right? If you only look for Brahman or Atman and not look for and discard, even though in the jackfruit, in the bell fruit, you actually discard it, but you don't, by discard it, you don't get the full picture. You don't get the full weight, I think is the term you use, right? You don't get the full weight. You don't know the truth yet, right? Even if you're only interested in one thing, you can't separate it dramatically like that. You don't get one without the other, right? Thakur's, I put in my full weight example. This is, I always think, because then Thakur said that everything can be understood by this example, or something like, if you understand this, you understand everything. I don't understand this, yes, but maybe we should focus on it. This is why I'm at least like giving a little swipe at it. I'm introducing it.
Analogy, but this
That
one
one.
lost.
So,
You understand it yet? Now do you understand it? Good. What?
my brain feels like it's trying to stretch.
Hmm?
My brain feels like it's trying to stretch to fully. So, can you just say it one more time?
I don't know. I barely said it that time. I was nervous about the first swipe, right? But she's the goddess is the totality of existence, not just the eternal part,
Okay.
right? It's like she's a full thing, right? And that's a way of, so that even within the concept of Shakti and Shaktism is already a way of taking the whole thing seriously, even if that's not what we're necessarily after. Right, you can't have one without the other in a certain sense. And if you do, you can. Maybe you can just nowadays we go to the store. We were at the supermarket yesterday and walking through the produce section. You notice the section where they have all just people they're selling only the essential parts of melons. Like going, well, that's real convenient, right? But it's like, so maybe you can just go to the store and just get the flesh of a melon without the seeds and the like that. But you're ignoring a big part of it. It's not, you don't understand melons if you only understand the flesh. That's the point. We have to understand the whole thing. Shaktism perhaps allows, the idea of Shakti allows us to understand the whole thing. Right. Now, in this verse, it says prakriti pumaha, right? Prakriti and Purusha may be mentioned there, right? So that's using the language of Samkhya. Right, so sometimes Shaktism will use very often the language of Sankhya, of the Purusha Prakriti. It will very often use the language of Vedanta, of Brahman and Maya, right? But of monistic or Advaita Vedanta, either dualist. It uses the language. It can use Shaktism and Tantra will use the dualistic language of Sankhya and the monistic language of Advaita, right? But it differs from them considerably. It's almost, I have in my notes, a relentless exaltation of the material world, right? Which is a unique feature, right? Rather than a relentless, in both the purely dualistic system of Sankhya, Purusha, the self, in our simplistic popular understanding, is eternally and absolutely distinct from matter, Prakriti and its evolutes, right? And liberation comes when we are completely separated from Prakriti. That's called Kavalyam muktiḥ, right? That we're completely isolated. Kavalyam means like aloneness and isolation, right? That's the goal, right? So that it's very hard. So it's a radical rejection of Prakriti, right? Because of the nature of understanding who we actually are as Purusha. In Vedanta, it's a non-dualistic system compared to the dualism of Sankhya, but it's also another type of devaluation, not as in completely other than us that causes our suffering, but as utterly untrue, or at least foundationally untrue, if not utterly untrue. Right? There are different schools what the untrueness is, right? Right. So in general, I don't care anything you say in any school of Indian philosophy, the opposite statement can be usually in the next verse. That's not the problem, or the next acharya, or the next commentary for sure, right? But generally, it's more world affirming, right? So that might be interesting to think about that, and as we come to bhukti and mukti in this verse, which are the names that stuck out. So so in the previous name, prakriti, strī prakriti. If we take prakriti to mean that, not just the nature of a woman, strī prakriti pumān, prakriti purusha, śaktiḥ. So Shakti is usually associated in the Sankhya system. If there's a correspondence, it corresponds to prakriti, right? Shakti is prakriti in like that, right? And in the Sankhya system, prakriti has a negative conception. It's a web of matter to which the Purusha, the individual, we ourselves are somehow entrapped, right? Liberation is Kavalyam, right? But I was thinking about this. There's some similarity also to like Greek and supplementary Christian conceptions, right? Where the identification of the male with spirit, right, and the female with matter, right, and with a devaluation of one as a trap of the spirit. So that he has a very similar language here, and we'll continue there. So there are three ways we can think of Purusha and Prakriti in the light of Shakti, or in the light of Shaktism, right? One, we can think of it as Purusha and Prakriti are ultimately the same, because like an example, it's not my specialty, but in the Kashmir forms of Shaivism and Tantra, the Purusha Prakriti is very different. You have Purusha and Prakriti and the evolutes of Prakriti, the 24 evolutes of Prakriti that create the world, but these aren't eternal two categories. Above, they come from another category. There's categories beyond that from which there's a single category from which Purusha and Prakriti generate, not the eternally separate, eternally distinct, unrelated, and unchanging categories, and one of which evolves by the energetic presence of the other, by the conscious presence of the other, in Sankhya system, right? So in Tantra, usually both of them Purusha and Prakriti are seen to be manifestation of another Shakti. Shakti manifests as both Purusha and Prakriti. So Purusha and Prakriti are ultimately the same. Prakriti contains within herself. If you think of Prakriti as nature, some schools hold that Prakriti holds within itself Purusha. Purusha itself comes out of a form of Prakriti, not eternally separate, right? Or that Purusha and Prakriti are both aspects of the goddess. That's the way we usually tend to think of it. So anyways, this is just a quick jump back to, because Shakti seems to be an important one. The next name, śaktiḥ, sūktiḥ. Did I lose it? Oh, hold on here. Matiḥ. I think I may have erased my... Oh, that's too bad. Let me double check, make sure I don't have it somewhere else. Mukti. Okay, I have to do sūktiḥ from memory. I don't have my notes on it. I think I erased it by accident. That's name 279, right? No.
282.
282. Yeah, I got messed up here. Sūktiḥ. Sūktir-matir. Sūktiḥ. Somehow or they got them mixed up somehow. Anyways, I think I wrote. I think my notes for sūktiḥ and matiḥ are in the same category. So I'll see if I can remember how to untangle them and not embarrass myself. if it doesn't sound right, just add it to the next name, and it will make perfect sense. But sūktiḥ means, it means like a beautiful verse, right? A beautiful verse, a stanza. It means beautiful and friendly speech, right? It means a correct exposition, something like that, right? So where does it come in here? I was actually thinking, why is it? Maybe it just fits the meter and divine name, so they put it in there. But trying to think how it could possibly mean, because part of Shakti is also vibration, right? The Vedas come from this vibration. All manifestation comes from the sometimes we think of the vibration is the energy that creates everything, that Shakti, like that. And mantra, and often is understood that Ma creates through Shakti, through sound. Right, and so maybe the speech is auspicious, something like that, or maybe these speeches are auspicious. So that's a simple. But then maybe connected also to the next name, matiḥ, right? Matiḥ is there's a name in the Sahasranāma. There's a shared name. I think wrote it down, 445. So there's a lot of shared names, right? And matiḥ means it means like measurement, right? It means thought. It means also correct understanding. This type of meaning, right? It also can mean shukti. It means like prayer, right? Devotion, prayer, resolution, right? It happens to be one of the 64 matrikas in the Devi Mandala. So a lot of these names were auxiliary Shaktis and deities from previous discussions. She's also there as one of Goddess Durga's Shaktis, one of the 64 yoginis, right? So mati also means, so it's to measure. When you measure something, what happens when you measure something? You understand it, right? So like if you understand something, you analyze it and you measure it, right? So measuring has a secondary meaning of like understanding. So some translations, if you just look it up on Google or something, in a Sanskrit dictionary on Google, mati could be intelligence, it could be knowledge, it could be understanding, right? But it comes from this idea of measuring, it seems, right? Measuring, to analyze it, to measure something is to understand something, to categorize it, right? So mati is she who knows, she who is, knowledge, like that. It could be like that. So the next name, mata. So Mata is a sweet name, mother, right? So there's another Mata is one of the names in Lita Sahasranāma, 457. So you can, if you have the commentaries at home, you can see what they say, what is said in traditional commentators on this, right? And Mata means mother. So what does it mean in our Shakti, in our Hindu goddess class? We talk a little bit about what does it mean. We say, oh, the mother goddess, God as mother, right? So mother, the idea of mother, Shakti is mother. It has flavors of meaning, right? Mother, Mata means mother. Mata is mother. Mother is the one who we come biologically. So it means like our soul. What is it like sometimes we say like the Gayatri is the mother of the Vedas. It's not like the Gayatri had a baby and its child is the Vedas, right? But it's like it's the source of the Vedas. So mother has all kinds of meanings. So it means source, it means offsprings, it means fertility, it means mother is the idea of life cycles, it means the womb, right? It means life, right? It's associated with nurturing and motherhood, right? But in Sanskrit, mata and this matiḥ are very related. Mother and measurement. The term mother, mata, mother, and measurement are connected in a very similar way that even in English, can't say English and Latin, at least in the source of our word, the word mother and matter are deeply related, right? So they're in that, and also with a root of measurement, right? So mother is, we think, this is mommy, this is our God, our mommy, our loving mother, right? It could be like we could have that relation with her, but sometimes the mata is also is the source of everything. Matter is the source she becomes a world and then lives in it. She becomes matter. She generates it. It is her. It comes out of the mother's body, right? There's also a double, this idea of matter and measurement, and mother, matter, and measurement. There's a term in Sanskrit, I think also in some commentaries, it's there, on the Sahasranāma, it says pramata. Mata, mother, and pramata. Pramata means the one who knows. So there, mata also is connected mati to knowledge, right? And in the triad of, in knowledge, you need the knower, knowledge, and the object of knowledge, right? That in that triad, the knower is mata. That's what's meant here. So mata is the first of that triad, the knower, right? It could be like that. So in that sense, what does it mean? She was the mother of everything, but she's also the knower of everything, right? And in this case, maybe, and in that triad of knower, knowledge, and you know something, right? Let's say you know me. I'm the object of your knowledge. You're the knower. I'm the object, and knowledge is in between. So you're also mata, right? That mata has become, and that's it. Spread as the one, the many. Śaktiḥ, sūktir-matir-mātā, matiḥ. Then bhuktir-muktiḥ. These are the things where I was really thinking. So this combination, bhukti, I'll just define them first. Bhukti means enjoyment, right? And mukti means liberation. So bhuktir-muktiḥ. That's so strange. It's like purusham prakriti. These are opposites, are they? From some schools, opposites, right? So some would hold that bhuktir-muktiḥ are opposites. They're different realms, right? They're in different directions, right? But they're also sometimes, very often in verses and prayers. Our tongue says it easily because so many slokas have bhuktir-muktiḥ. What is it? Siddhi Bhuri Pradedevi Bhukti-muktiḥ Pradayini Mantra Murti Saradevi Mahalakshmi. That's a great example. Right? It's a common note from a verse from the Mahalakshmastakam Stotram, right? 8 verses composed by Narada Muni on goddess Lakshmi. So she Siddhi Bhuri Pradedevi Siddhi Bhuri Pradedevi, she gives perfection and intelligence. Bhukti-muktiḥ, she gives bhukti, enjoyment, and mukti, liberation. That mantra murti saradevi, her form is always made of mantra. To that goddess Lakshmi, I bow again and again. Mahalakshmi namostute. Right. So my tongue's used to saying it, but it's very, very often said. It's a very common thing to put together. Bhukti-muktiḥ, right? So I think we'll take them separately and then we'll play with them together, right? So bhukti means, like I said, enjoyment, but in use, it has to be, it's not just enjoyment, it's like worldly pleasure, right? Worldly enjoyment or worldly success, right? Pleasure, success, happiness, and sometimes it means sense enjoyment is bhukti, right? Or worldly benefit, right? Success and benefit. And when you say enjoyment means having enjoying means enjoying something. What's another word for enjoyment? Enjoying means like liking something, having a pleasure. Often enjoyment means pleasure, right? I enjoyed the movie. I got pleasure from it. I enjoyed that meal. It was tasty, right? But enjoyment means experiencing, right? So, and we would say, oh, they'll experience the result. They'll enjoy the results of their karma. Right, so not all enjoyment is not necessarily pleasant. We want pleasant experience, right? But simply enjoyment means experience, right? So but if we're praying for an experience, we're usually praying for pleasurable experience, not painful experience, right? That makes sense, right? But all experience is enjoyment. All worldly experience, especially, is bhukti, right? And in the classic, in Hinduism, we're taught in so many texts that there's 4 goals of life. This chatur purushartha, right? The goals of human life. They say there's 4 common goals or legitimate goals. And there's kama, which means enjoyment. So kama means enjoyment, and bhukti means enjoyment. So when you see kama, also means you can also read bhukti. So kama, enjoyment or pleasure, right? Not kama. What are the other ones? Kama arta means wealth, right? Kama arta, dharma, righteousness and religion and duty, and moksha, liberation. So moksha and mukti are the same root word, right? So one of the goals of life, I can't say the goal of life, but one of the, arata is not really a goal of life. Ramakrishna said God realization is the goal of life, right? He didn't say dharma, artha, kama, and moksha are the goals of life. He said God experience God attainment is the goal of life, right? But these are the things humans long for. We long for these things, right? These are our aspirations. We long for these things, right? And religion is often practiced for that. I mean, I don't know what's in people's hearts and people's real internal spiritual longing for divinity. That's even I don't know my own what my own longing for divinity is and love and longing is, right? But many people come. You say, "Oh, Swamiji, my son is sick," or my daughter is applying for a job, right? Or my father has fallen, right, and needs, so I'll offer a flower right now. Or they come, and can I please come? I know you're closed. I need to pray to Ma. I have a test, a medical test that I don't know. I'm very nervous about. That's completely normal, right? To want a pleasurable life or a happy life, a healthy life, right? And much religion is legitimately focused on that, right? And we sometimes think, of course, praying to Ma is always good, right? And Ma can hear our prayers, and we have a personal experience, and many people have experience of getting success from that. And it's also not only the focus of much religious devotion; it's a type of devotion, right? It's also sometimes the focus of austere sadhanas. People practice tapasya, and we think, the yogis in the Himalaya are meditating for God realization. I hope some, I hope to be that to be that type of yogi, right? But you'll hear stories of people meditating for all kinds of reasons, to get some sort of a boon, right? And I personally know people like that. They're struggling with something tremendously, and they don't know what else to do, and they take fierce vows, right? I'll stop eating. I'll sit for 9 days in Navaratri, and won't in one spot. I won't get up. I'm gonna and get a response from God because I'm in trouble. Right, so even tapasya, even tantric mantras and austerities are sometimes performed, maybe mostly performed for bhukti, for some success, some enjoyment, some relief, perhaps, right? As flavors of that, right? So if this name bhukti, right, it could say bhuktida or kamada. There's a mantra that says kamadam mokshiram chaivaham karaya namo namaha, right? That the one who gives the mantra om gives kama, enjoyment, and liberation, right? So it could be, it doesn't really say she who gives bhukti, but she who is bhukti. So, right, so ma is bhukti, and ma grant, and other mantras say ma grants bhukti. So ma grants success and grants pleasure and grants experience, enjoyment in this world, right? As well as ma is that enjoyment. I think that's important. That she's not just here. It does not say she grants it. She is that. So even our enjoyment is also, she's become everything, including enjoyment, right? And so it's perhaps a good spiritual practice to see her in also our enjoyment. Not only to pray to her for success, right? But also when we work for success, usually she makes us work for success, right? Right? She gives us the ability and inspiration and energy to do it. But when we have success, whatever that success, or whatever that pleasurable or experience is, that's also her. The next name, muktiḥ. So she who is liberation, right? So there's a belief, and we say this sometimes. I mean, I've heard it from many sources, and maybe even there's maybe even a sloka. Usually, if somebody can quote a Sanskrit verse, it's very authentic, right? So there's a Sanskrit verse somewhere that says any deity that can grant you bhukti can't grant you mukti. This is the thing, right? So if you pray to a deity to grant you success in life, they can't grant you liberation, and the ones that grant you liberation can't help you in this world, right? But then I just quoted one verse. I just now from memory I quoted two verses that say, "She who grants kamada mokshadan chaiva or bhuktir-muktiḥ," right? So practically speaking, every one of those traditions, they also hold that the God can grant anything, right? So, but some hold like that. So, can Kali grant mukti? Right, I've heard there's some. This is usually from sectarian position, and this is what we do in sectarian traditions. That there's many gods to worship, and if you worship them, they all can give you some blessing, maybe, right, in the world of karma, right? But really, if you worship our God, who's supreme God, he or she can give you liberation, right? And I've heard. Even in this town, I've heard people telling me that actually Kali cannot give liberation, right? She can, at the best, give some material benefit, right, but not liberation, right? So, what do the scriptures? Of course, certain scriptures of our tradition, Kali scriptures will say, like this one will say, she is liberation and gives liberation. So here's a few examples. I just want to look up a few examples of verses that describe Kali as giver of liberation, right? In the Kuma Purana, a very important Purana, anyone desiring salvation should take refuge in Parvati Parameshwari, a name for Kali here, right? Who is the soul of all beings. So she is the self, she's Atman, right? And the essence of even Shiva, right? She's the soul of everybody, the essence of Shiva. And if you want liberation, go to Parvati. In the Brahmanda Purana, Sri Vidya oriented text, those who worship Parashakti, Kali, the supreme Shakti, whether according to rules or not, using all the proper details of sadhana or just out of attention and devotion, right? They are liberated. Of this, there's no doubt, right? So maybe those texts are wrong. Everybody thinks other people's texts are wrong, right? These are our texts. We don't think our texts are wrong, So, and there's another verse, I didn't write it down, but I'm remembering it from the Kalika Purana, that you can't get closer to Kali worship than the Kalika Purana, right? And it says, one who says, basically, I bow to Kali. Right, so it's like, I bow to Kali, Kalikaye namaha, something like that, right? I think is a word like that. He says the kama, arta, and dharma, the enjoyment, wealth, and dharma, they're already in one's hand. He says, what to speak of moksha, right? It's like no, that's like that guy. Moksha's already in their hand. Right. The most difficult thing to attain. What to speak of kama, arta, and that's a verse. Kama, arta, and dharma. Right. Moksha is already in one's hand. Of course, we all say that. I bow to Kali. Moksha is already in your hand and accessible. Right. What to speak of the other? Everything's accessible. Right. So I like that. Right. So moksha means freedom. Moksha means liberation, salvation. The word salvation is perhaps not an exactly appropriate word. It's from a different conception, but maybe salvation, if we're really suffering, right, we need to be saved from our suffering, pulled out of the material world or something like that, pour out of a hellish existence, right? But usually that's not usually how mukti is conceptualized. Mukti is freedom, and usually freedom from samsara, freedom from the cycle of birth and death, freedom from the suffering that a world of material consciousness generates, right? And usually in most schools of Hindu thought, including Jainism and also including because they're not schools of Hindu thought, and also Jainism and also Buddhism, right? The cause of suffering, the cause that keeps us suffering in the world of samsara is desire, right? So here it is, bhukti. Right, so that's why I get confused. And in most classical salvationist, mukti-oriented traditions, right, bhukti is the thing that stops us from attaining mukti, right? And mukti is a cessation of kama and bhukti very often, right? So what does it mean to be free? Of course, any type of bondage any freedom from any type of bondage is a type of mukti, right? And in Christianity, the final liberation or salvation is salvation through Jesus, or overcoming original sin, and therefore being perfect enough to enter the divine kingdom after death in the future. But then you see, like in liberation theology, there's in movements where, like, well, that's liberation in heaven is not sufficient. We have to have liberation on this earth and work for social justice and against like that. So there's ways of, that's also a type of liberation. That's also a type of mukti, right? So that's has become like that. But in Hinduism, in the devotional schools of mukti, I have a few more. I'll end with mukti also. Shall get some octane here. I can talk fast. The devotional schools of liberation. What is it in Advaita Vedanta? Mukti would be the realization of Brahman, the realization that the individual actually is not individual; it's only Brahman, right? Is only Brahman itself, right? And the world was therefore the world of duality, prakriti will disappear. The world of Maya, the world of suffering, samsara will disappear completely, and will be unrevocably established in the knowledge of Brahman, and as Brahman. That's a very perhaps overly simplistic description of mukti in Vedanta, in Advaita Vedanta. In Sankhya, mukti is at Kavalyam, when one realizes one is prakriti, completely independent. One is purusha, completely independent of prakriti, and for eternally, right? And when one has that realization, one does not identify with the changing nature of prakriti, and therefore one does not suffer. One is liberated, right? But in the devotional schools, that's not the way they think of it, right? And generally in the devotional schools, and this is coming from a lot from the Vaishnava tradition, they're seen as four types of mukti, right? That in the devotional schools generally hold, for the most part, that the individual is real. Individuality, not the individual, every school thinks the individual is real in one sense, in Brahman or Atman, but that Atman, the individual nature of Atman, individuality is real and eternal. That's given assumption, right? So we want to be free from suffering, but we cannot be free from individuality. In certain schools of Vedanta, the way you get rid of suffering is getting rid of individuality. You identify with Brahman, not with Jiva, right? So in schools of mukti, there's sarshti mukti, that is to attain the majesty of Vishnu, the glory of Vishnu. Let me hear. There's samipya mukti, to be in God Vishnu's company. I'll use a different method because there's different ways of analyzing it. I think for ease, I'll say there's I'm going to do it this way instead. Salokya mukti. Salokya mukti means going to the loka, and this is what we sometimes think of like heaven, right? And people want to go to heaven to be with God, right? That's to be in God's realm. And in Hinduism, that looks go to Vaikuntha, go to Goloka Vrindavan, to go to Kailash, celestial Kailash, go to Devi Loka, something like that, right? And from which we'll live eternally in God's presence. That's a type of liberation. We're no longer in the world of samsara. We're in the world of the heaven, in our Lord's heaven world, right? Highest heaven world. There's samipya mukti, where we attain closeness to God. There's sarupya mukti. We take a form that's just like God, looking like God. And in traditional form, that literally means like with four arms and club and disc, right? And so if you look, like if you go to the Malibu temple, many of you, all of you have been to the Malibu temple. Lord Balaji has four arms. That's in the classical form. But before you get to the main gate, there's his attendants, Jai and Vijay. They also have four arms, right? They're not Vishnu, right? They're devotees of Vishnu, servants of Vishnu, but they also have four arms because in Vaikuntha everybody has four arms. Right, Swami Chaitanya always said, "How will they sleep?" Very difficult to have four arms. Would be very difficult. This is not the one I want because I would be very difficult. With jata, it's already complicated to sleep. Right, and extra arms would be difficult. Right, so that's one form conceptualized especially in the Sri Vaishnava tradition. And then Saruja is like merging into the body of Vishnu, and has a lot of non-dualistic flavor of devotion. I want to merge with my Lord and things like that, right? And in Advaita Vedanta, Shankaracharya writes, I think he has like 20 different points why this is not mukti. This is a different thought, right? Why these categories, going to heaven, getting a body like the Lord, these things don't qualify as really mukti. They're not irrevocable cessation of Maya. He has, I mean, these are sectarian philosophical differences. I dived in late last night on them, like, oh yeah, I forgot. They can get the argumentative, of why this one is actually not mukti, right? Whatever that is, right? He has his arguments for it, but either way, they presuppose the eternal nature of the individual soul, which schools of Advaita do not hold, right? So whatever mukti is, freedom from rebirth, right? Whatever, how to get free from the world of Maya, the world of suffering, the world of desire, the world of rebirth, whether we go to heaven or attain a form or merge in God or realize Brahman or become Purusha, completely independent prakṛiḥ, however we conceptualize, or go to heaven by the grace of the Savior, whatever it is, right? She's that. Whatever it is, she's mukti. She's muktida, she gives mukti. Mukti-pradayini, she's a grantor of mukti, and she is mukti itself. Whatever it is, she's that state, right? So then you have this combination of the two together. We talked about bhukti, we talked about mukti, kama and mukti, kama and moksha. But bhukti-mukti, it comes bhukti-mukti, bhukti-mukti-pradayini, kamada mokshada shaiva. These are often put together, right? The question, so she is both. She's bhukti and mukti. She's enjoyment and liberation. She grants both. She's bhukti mukti pradayini. She grants the. So the question is, can she give both? I mean, she can give both, but is it either or? Do you pray for bhukti or mukti? And that's usually we think, we pray materially. We have material desires, we pray to God, right? But the saints and the sadhus, they only pray for devotion. The pure devotees only pray for devotion, only pray for liberation, right? And therefore she grants liberation. And Sri Ramakrishna described, getting ahead of myself, right? But so in general like that, but in Tantra, there's schools of Tantra, and we have to be careful with these schools because we're also followers of Sri Ramakrishna who gave a lot of emphasis in a certain direction, right? But schools of Tantra hold that not only does the same God can give enjoyment or liberation, but you can get enjoyment and liberation. Right, and the Sri Vidya tradition talks about this also. It's like the Lalita Tripura Sundari that's emphasized in her prayers and in theology, that you can be happy in this world and attain liberation after death, or be happy in this world. If you're a great saint, attain liberation even in this world, right? And so that's an interesting. Some people are uncomfortable with that because Sri Ramakrishna always talked about kamini kanchan. Kamini kanchan maya, right? It says kamini kanchan is a shorthand for material consciousness, right? Lust and greed and things like this, right? So that is different than attainment, searching for God. Most of us are praying for kamini kanchan. And Thakur would pray, "Oh Lord, do not delude me. I don't want kamini kanchan. I only want you. Ma, I don't want kamini kanchan. I only want you." Right? Kamini kanchan is bhukti, right? That's a shorthand for bhukti, right? I don't want this, right? I want like that, but we have to. This text is not coming from Sri Ramakrishna. This text is coming from the larger tantric tradition, which may actually be hinting, and their names that hint like that also, that she can give both. But that's tricky. I have a brother disciple named Bhaktanand from Austria, and this is 24 years ago, 2 Kumbh Melas ago, right? 2 Kumbh Melas ago, I was walking with him. We were just he showed me my first real bath as a sadhu in the Sangam. So he taught me how to take I taught you how to take a Sangam bath. And afterward, I was quoting a text from a Pure Land Buddhist text, a verse, right? He says, trying to enjoy the world, trying to realize Buddha nature while enjoying in the world is as dangerous as a infant licking honey off a sharp edge of a knife. Right. Anyway, we were monks in Long Jata, so we were talking like that. I remember he stopped and looked at me and says, "Sounds difficult, but I shall try." Right? Because he was married and had kids. He was still giving it his best shot. You can get cut. I think he got a little cut. It can be difficult, but maybe still possible. Right. Right. But the part of this idea is that what our goal is. Whatever our goal is, Ma can grant that goal, and Ma is that goal. Right. And to have a high goal. But there is a danger also. Mukti is in a hierarchy. If you want to make a hierarchy, mukti is the highest goal in that category. But most devotional students, they don't hold, in the language they hold, mukti is a low thing. I don't want mukti. Sri Ramakrishna, I began to tell a story of Sri Ramakrishna. This is the story I was going to tell, and I stopped myself. Sri Ramakrishna says, the Divine Mother says, I easily grant mukti. Right? What I don't grant is love. Devotion, I rarely grant. Right? Mukti, somebody's free, that's okay. But if I give devotion, then I become their slave. Right? My mother, Krishna dance, he says, there's one verse in the Bhagavatam that says, the yogis for 10,000 lives, meditating on austerities, cannot attain the reality of the one who the gopis are making dance by clapping their hands. Right? He's a plaything, a doll in the hands of the gopis as a child. Right? Who yogis meditate and can't attain. Right? So devotion is the highest thing. So but whatever the higher thing, we usually think, mukti is the higher thing. Whatever that goal is, liberation or devotion or whatever it is, whatever that conception is, right? We should the scriptures always say we should have a gati, a param gati. We should have a supreme goal, something we're aspiring for. We call spiritual aspirants, looking for something more, something higher. Not even something higher, the highest. Thakur gave this Ishvara Labdha as the goal, the attainment of the experience, God attainment as the goal. And he said that's the reason we have a human birth. That's the purpose of life, right? And if we don't attain it, we wasted this life. Don't lose this. But he didn't say that mukti was the highest goal, right? He didn't say what God attainment is the highest goal. But is there a state that we can define as the highest state? We can't. All religions do that. Our religion does it too. Right, but Thakur says a very interesting. I want to read. We'll end with this one statement of Sri Ramakrishna talking about God experience, divine experience, states of consciousness. Right, he says a limit can't be placed on God experience. Right, there's no limit, there's no end, there's no final thing. He says as soon as you cross one limit, maybe that limit is mukti. As soon as you cross one limit, there's another one beyond. As soon as you cross that one, there's another one to go beyond. On and on. Right? There's no end. Right? So that's a very interesting idea. One sadhu, I'll end with this story. I met named Srila Govinda Maharaj. He's a Vaishnava guru, now expired, lived in Navadvip. In Navadvip, birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. Navadvip. I went 31 years ago, this story happened 31 years ago, right? But he says he told us, he says that to go when you're in this realm of selfish behavior, we're only suffering, right? And therefore we want to get out of the suffering, and therefore we go from the realm of exploitation or kama, right, to the realm of mukti. We want to end suffering. And to end suffering, great. Mukti is so important, right? But is life only not suffering? Is there any positive value? Right? There's another realm above mukti. This is a very classically Vaishnava theological point, and that is that of bhakti, right? Where there's a positive pleasure that's selfless. Selfish love causes suffering, and so renunciation is better than that. But that's not love, right? Love is better than selfish love and not love. And so another Swami, Tripuramara, sitting right here actually on a different chair, but he was sitting here a long time ago. He said, if you're in debt, you have negative numbers, and if you clear your debt, right, you're not in like that, but you still got nothing. That's the problem, right? So we're not thinking what's ahead of that, right? Positive numbers are like that. So there's no end to what can be attained, and Thakur encourages, I think, that idea that there's no end to the nature. God is infinite. He described God as a mountain of sugar, and even great sages he says like Narada, like Sukadev, like Shankaracharya and Dattatreya. You can't get better. We have pictures of all these on our walls. We worship, they are at best big ants, he says, right? That means they can hold more than us, but they can't hold the whole thing. God is infinite, and even the greatest saint of the highest experience is finite, right? So there's no, so one thing after another is no end. I think that's a nice thing to think about, and maybe even implied by this cluster of names led to my contemplation of it. The name left, we'll start with pati-vratā next time. We've gone over, so I'm not gonna. If you have any questions, we can talk after arati. I think we've gone over too long, and we have a room full. Sūryātmikā, rudra-patnī, raudrī, strī, prakṛiḥ, pumān, śaktiḥ, sūktir-matir-mātā, bhuktir-muktiḥ, pati-vratā. Shri Guru Maharaj Ji ki jai, Jai Mahamaya ki jai, Swami Maharaj Ji ki jai, Ma Dakshineshwari Bhavatarini, Dakshina Kālī ki jai. And if I don't get it, today's auspicious New Year's, today and tomorrow. So Happy New Year. By the Indian tradition, this is New Year. In most Indian cultures, today is New Year. So Happy New Year. Oh. Yeah, you can leave it off arati. No. Bhuktir-muktiḥ pradayini. Can I give you this? Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaः Hari Om Gananatva Ganapati Gum Vamahe Kavim Kavino Pavasravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatana Sinmanutavisharasaranam Shri Manmahaganapatahe Mahalakshminarayana Namaha Namahishwaravyam Namaha Vaniranyagarbhavyam Namaha Sakundarajam Survatavyam Guruvatavyam Granavatavyam Namaha Vasrivatavyam Sarvatavyam Sarvim Sarvabhyo Devi Gurundarvangamangalayam Varenyam Mridam Tum Narayanam Namaskritya Sarvakarmanikharinamaya Tattam Shuryami Swaha Om Hrim Vijatattam Shuryami Swaha Om Hrim Shivatattam Shuryami Swaha Om Aim Hrim Hrim Sarvatattam Shuryami Swam Vishnu 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 Mudar Vishnu Brahman Param Sarapashanta Suradeva Shakti-rādhadan Om Avavedru Vitrova Sarvavastam Gitopiva Yakrapundavikaksam Tābhayam Vayatra Suchihi Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu Idam Nāyaveda Mahakāla Sahita Om Hrim Simadakshina Kadagairevi Atmaharagarigriyami Namaha Om Om Idam Nāyaveda Mahakāla Sahita Om Hrim Simadakshina Kalikai Divyai Namaha Om Yadrajaya Vidmahe Mahayantraya Dhimahi Tanno Yantra Prachodayat Om Lingadara Shakti-ribhyo Namaha Om Dipaya Namaha Om Dipaya Namaha Om Dipaya Namaha Hum Bang Hring Kring 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 Idam Bhajati Mahakāla Bhairava Sahita Om Kring Simadakshina Kalagairevi Sevam Darshayami Namaha भुवनेश्वरी दक्षिण काली की जय। जय माँ भवतारिणी दक्षिण काली की जय। भगवान श्री रामकृष्ण परमहंस देव की जय। जय जगन्माता श्री शारदा देवी की जय। जय योगाचार्य स्वामी विवेकानंद महाराज जी की जय। जय पूर्णा तीर्थ दक्षिणेश्वर धाम की जय। नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर। Durge, Durge, Kali, Durge, We will chant Mahishasura-mardini Sutta. So today's, of course, New Year's and Navaratri. So we shall chant, during Navaratri we chant Mahishasura-mardini Sutta. Very good idea.
Vishvavilodini Nandamute Girivaravindya Shirodhini Vasini Vishnavinasini Vishnute Bhagavati Deshini Kanda Kutumbini Puri Kutumbini Puri Kite Jaya Jaya He Mahishasura-mardini Jaya
Are you a singer? You sing? You want to sing something? Does she sing?
Yeah.
I think she looks like a singer, that's why I think you sing something from what?
Sundari, Tripura Sundari, Bala Tripura Sundari, Gai Konu Maharati. Bala Tripura Sundari, Gai Konu Maharati. Gana Lola Jala Mela Dari Chupuma. Gana Lola Jala Mela Dari Chupuma. Sundarangi Annayuni Satiraruga. Sundarangi Annayuni Satiraruga. Sundaramunu Andamugari Pumantini. Sundaramunu Andamugari Pumantini. Bala Tripura Sundari Gai Konu Maharati. Bala Tripura Sundari Gai Konu Maharati. Gana Lola Jala Mela Dari Chupuma. Gana Lola Jala Mela Dari Chupuma. Vasi Ketti Unnadana Vanachunamniki. Vasi Ketti Unnadana Vanachunamniki. Rasi Kasi Sampadanichi Bhogumantini. Rasi Kasi Sampadanichi Bhogumantini. Bala Tripura Sundari Gai Konu Maharati. Bala Tripura Sundari Gai Konu Maharati. Gana Lola Jala Mela Dari Chupuma. Gana Lola Jala Mela Dari
Bah. Excellent. Sarvamangala-mangale Shive Sarvartha-sarike Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namostute Srishti-sthiti-vinashana Shakti-bhuti-sanatani Gunashraye Gunamaye Narayani Namostute Shri Ramakrishna Deva Ki Jai, Jai Swami Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Jai Ma Dakshineshwari Bhavatārini Dakshina Kālī Ki Jai.
Tripura Sundari.